Hi again. It's me, VC Duncan. Um, Last video I was talking about what my grandma taught me and our beliefs. I lived with my grandma for a few years when I was a kid, and I got to experience how we used to live, how we lived off the land. My grandma was awesome. She made jams, rhubarb, strawberry, huckleberry, blackberry. We canned salmon. And I remember this one summer, we went and stayed with my Auntie Betty in Deadman's Creek. She, Deadman's Creek was probably one of the, I don't know, the greatest times of my childhood with my Auntie Betty and my grandma and my Granny Josephine, and staying in my Auntie Betty's little house. All of us in that little house sleeping on the couches, and the summers were so hot because this is in it's like a half hour north of Kamloops. Yeah. Sorry, I should kind of give you an idea of where I'm going with all this. I'm giving you a bit of my story, my childhood, not just the painful stuff, but the good stuff, the good memories, and my traditions, and what I remember from being, from what my grandma taught me. Because throughout my whole life, all the pain and everything that I've gone through, I've always held on to what she told me and what my grandpa has taught me, and my aunts and uncles, all of them. And I'm giving you an idea of our culture, of what I believe in, what I've always believed in. I just haven't always been able to live up to my beliefs because I let fear and addiction get in the way. But we'll talk about that later. So yeah, that summer that we spent in Deadman's Creek. Yeah, it was the summer after my dad died. And it was a hard summer for me. We went to a Sundance that year, and it was my first Sundance. And I'll never forget it because I made an offering, because my grandma told me I had to, for my dad. So what they did was they had me, I was praying with the pipe, and while I was doing that and I was holding the pipe and I was praying, they cut a piece of skin off my shoulder, and they wrapped it in tobacco and they put it on a tree. And that was an offering to my dad. And I remember praying to my dad and praying for my mom. I pray now. I smudge now. I try and remember everything that my grandma and my grandpa taught me. I was 9 years old when my dad had died. It's pretty hard. But yeah, I'm sorry. I veered track from there. I was at Deadman's Creek at my Auntie Betty's, and we stayed there, and we spent that summer going to the Fraser River and swimming in the Fraser River and going to creeks that they knew of and swimming in lakes and just being able to walk out into the bush and grab some wild berries and some honeysuckles. Honeysuckles, they're this little like yellow flower and you can suck on the butt and they're really sweet. I grew up with that. It's part of me, who I am. This land is, it's what my grandma taught me to love. So yeah, we'd go spend we spent the summer doing that and fishing during spawning season. My grandpa would fish day and night for us. Day and night. We'd have enough salmon to last us the entire year. We had 2 deep freezers. And my grandpa made sure that we were fed. I remember gutting and hanging and smoking and canning and freezing at least 300 salmon. And we shared it. We gave it away. We brought it to funerals. We brought it to elders, because that's what my grandma always taught us to do. Every time we went somewhere, she'd always bring, smoked salmon when we had it, or extra canned salmon when we could spare it. She'd always bring tobacco. And whenever we'd go places, she'd get one of us to go give whoever we were staying with some tobacco. It's a sign of respect. If an indigenous person gives you tobacco, they're thanking you. I forgot about that. I don't do that much anymore. And I'm getting back into it, and I'm just grateful that's what she taught me. With everything that she went through, she held on to those beliefs. She held on to those teachings. Through everything that the residential school put her through, she remembered all of that stuff that she was taught. And my grandma was badass. Like, wagon coach riding badass. Like, she lived out in the bush. She lived without electricity. She lived the old way. One of the last. Her and my grandpa taught me how to work. And my dad did too, my stepdad, but watching them work, watching how hard they worked to take care of us at times, you have no idea how grateful I am. I just don't know how to show that. I mean, it's hard because, yeah, we'll get to that one later. Anyway, back to Deadman's Creek. In summer when I was 9, we went to that Sundance. We picked apricots most of that summer. Everywhere. We had so much fucking apricot jam. I was sick of it. Apricots and everything. Frozen apricots. We'd go pick Husham. Or soap berries. We'd bring up giant blue tarps out into the bush. And we'd just rip branches of soap berries off, and we'd sit there and bash the branches with big sticks, and we'd knock the berries off, and we would we would fill up giant ice cream buckets, and we'd bring the Husham or soap berries home. And my grandma, she'd get big giant pillowcases, and she'd put all the Husham in the pillowcases, and she'd squeeze all the juices out. And she'd can it. And that was our medicine, that was our ice cream, it was a multi things that we could do with it. I mean, it sucked when we were sick, or whenever we tried to fake we were sick, because my grandma would be like, alright, well, we're going to have some Husham. And I'd be like, no, I'm going to school, because it was soap berries. We'd have a cup of that, and it'd clean you right out. It's Indian medicine. They'd make Indian ice cream. We'd take the Husham juice, and we'd put it in a metal bowl, and we'd take an egg beater, and we'd whip the juice up, and it'd turn into a foam. And we'd throw sugar in it before we do all that, and it was Indian ice cream. It's this foam and sugar. And it was our medicine too at the same time. I miss that. I miss picking Husham. I miss spending days, weekends with my grandpa while he would go fishing, go dip netting, take this giant 20-foot pole, put a giant net at the end, and he would scoop the salmon out of this river that was called Farewell Falls. He had to tie himself to rocks on like the sides of cliffs, and he would literally he'd scoop 2, 3 up at a time, bring them up onto the side, and we'd have to walk down and follow rope sometimes, and put the salmon in our potato sacks, and me and my brother would carry him up the hill, up to the car, all day and night, and him and my Uncle Floyd. Just fishing night and day, and then we'd go home, and we would cut them up, wrap them, freeze them. Amazing. My grandpa was always hunting. Always. He was always hunting. We always had deer meat, moose meat. I wish I could go. I wish I could go do all that stuff. I miss it. I miss the deer meat. Salmon. I miss the life. I miss all of that. I miss going to sweats with my grandpa. I miss sweating at my Auntie Spick's. Me and one of my cousins when we were kids, I was like 9, and my Auntie Spick would let us go use the sweat. And my cousin Ryan and I we'd sweat and we'd sing. Just two little Indian boys doing what we were taught. God, I loved my Auntie Spick. She had this dope ass, like, log cabin house. And she always kept us fed. She knew when we lived with my mom that we didn't have that much to eat, so whenever we were over, the first thing she'd do is, "You hungry? You want something to eat?" She was the one that taught me my language in elementary school. I haven't spoke it other than, the little bit that I've said in the past few weeks. I haven't really spoke it since I was home. Christmas. I think I was 13. It's the last time I got to speak my language. But, that's not what we're getting at. Is I got to with my Auntie Spick. I got to experience sweating with my cousin Ryan and using the drums that they left out there and singing an honor song. I haven't done that in so long. I just did everything that my grandpa did. That's all I've done. I've just copied my grandpa. Copied him in the way that he passed the pipe. Copied him the way that we entered the sweat. I copied his ideal to be a hard worker. My grandpa's awesome. My Auntie Spick, my Auntie Betty, my Granny Josephine. She lived out in Dog Creek, and we'd go stay with her. She was my godmother. She didn't have any electricity at the house. This was in the 90s, and it was awesome. Driving out in the middle of the bush, going to see her. Her and my grandma would always talk to me in our language. They held on to the language through the schools. I miss my Granny Josephine. And my Auntie Betty. These are the women that raised me. I mean, next to my mom did an awesome job too, because I wouldn't be as smart as I am, but, I honestly owe my intelligence to my mother. All these women raised me. And I owe them that much to make this for them. Because of what they've done for me and what they've taught me, for giving me life. That's what my people believe, is just respecting the women in your family and the women in general. Again, like I said, I haven't done the greatest job, but I'm trying to get better at it. I'm still dealing with all this mental health stuff, but you know what? It's okay. Right now, I'm just squeezing the shit out of the good times to get through the bad. That's all I'm doing right now. Because through all that pain and stuff, I've had some really great life experiences. In my travels, I lived all over the Lower Mainland. I lived in everywhere. Not everywhere, but it felt like it. Abbotsford, Mission, Vancouver, North Van, East Hastings, Seashell, Roberts Creek. I miss Roberts Creek. I miss going to the bus stop and sitting it is at the end of the summer. When school just started, there were blackberries out, and I was just sitting at the bus stop and picking blackberries. I miss that kind of stuff. Because when I remember that stuff, it's like, man, that's living, that's life. That's something that my grandma taught me to cherish, or my grandma taught me to cherish. We'd we'd go real camping, like actual camping, out in the bush. Okay, it's more like Indian style because we drove my grandpa's Monte Carlo out into the bush, and we just follow old logging roads out in the mountains, and we pick these like white puffy things. I don't remember the name of them. I wish I did, because they were delicious. You just fry them up in butter. I got to have all of these really awesome wild foods. I miss deer meat, I miss moose meat, wild carrots. My grandma's pies. Every Christmas, my grandma, she would build a feast. Because somebody would show up, or she knew that somebody had nowhere to go. So she built a feast. We'd have pie and leftovers for days. She always kept us fed. That's what I love about my grandma. That's what I value. I don't always show it, and I know that I let my mental health get the best of me, and I know that sometimes I get all crazy and shit, but I have those memories, I have those teachings. I did a little bit of research and understand why I don't sleep in the winter. Our people were kind of nomadic, and well, not nomadic. They just kind of we'd go stay in these like little huts into the ground. It's cool because we lived by all the rivers and the mountains in BC, and during the winter, we would build giant like log huts close to the river, and we would cook underground. We would dig a big hole, build a giant fire, get that fire going all day, get the coals nice and just get everything to a really good temperature. We'd put our food on, or we'd put our I think it was wet juniper, and then we put our meat, salmon, whatever we were cooking, we'd put it all in there. We used tinfoil, but back in the day, we didn't use tinfoil, but we used tinfoil to cheat, and we cooked our food underground. We made potatoes underground. We cooked baked potatoes underground. Because we'd put the juniper in the food and more juniper, and then we'd put we'd put dirt on top of everything, and we just let it sit. And that's how we'd cook. We'd play stick games. Or the How, I think that's what we called it. And that's what I remember. I remember me and my brother, we would spend summers catching little like frogs and toads for my granny Adeline because she liked frogs and toads. I kind of live and I miss. You know, even though my mom is an alcoholic, she's a real hard ass on me and made me do flashcards and all these cards, and she made me read all these fucking books. Sometimes she'd be drunk, like she'd come home drunk and she'd wake me up and she'd make me do flashcards with her. My mom, you know, even though I went through some terrible stuff with my mom, she did a good job with what she had. I I don't blame her anymore. I don't blame her for anything anymore. I don't blame. I mean, I do blame the schools, but I don't hold that against anyone because that's what she taught me. Sometimes I think my mom's crazy, but you know, who isn't? My mom just loves me. And I love my mom. I'm a big fucking mama's boy. I'm a big grandma's boy. I'm a big auntie's boy. I love all the women that raised me. I can't emphasize that enough, and how much that means to my culture. How much that means to me now that I remember it. And getting to share this experience with you is reminding me of what I'm supposed to be doing. Again, like I said, I haven't always been the greatest, but I'm trying. I'm trying because that's what, I'm supposed to do. I had other relatives growing up that I looked up to. My Auntie Shar. She taught me how to put chocolate chips in bannock. She always loved me. And she never knew exactly what us kids were going through, but she never wanted me to feel unloved and unwanted. Even in my addiction and throughout the years, through everything that I've been through, I just try to love the way they taught me. Because I owe it to them. So, my mom, when she married my stepdad, we moved down to Omak, Washington. Small little town in eastern Washington. It's kind of hick. I don't know. Actual cowboys there, like bull riders, bronc riders. My dad was a bronc rider. It's hard to believe sometimes because my dad, he gets motion sickness and and he can get on a fucking Bronco, but can't get on a fucking moving sidewalk. My stepdad ain't the greatest man, and he doesn't do shit all like he's not. He's my dad. See, I want to tell you about the man that raised me. I'll tell you a little bit about the good stuff about my real dad in a bit, but the dad that raised me. We moved down to Omak. Twice we lived down there when I was I can't remember which grade, but we moved back to Williams Lake, and my dad took care of us. One of my favorite memories of my dad, Stuart, was whenever we would drive to the dump because he would let me drive. You ever hear that country song, Daddy Let Me Drive? That was kind of like, that was it, My dad taught me how to drive stick. He was there when I got my first deer when I was 12. He got me a lawnmower and a weed whacker when I wanted to make money. Him and my Uncle Billy. My big Uncle Billy, he was a pretty cool dude. He loved me. He knew that we weren't his blood, but he loved me. He still loves me. And the same with my dad, Stuart. did the best he could with what he had and with what he knew. And I wish that, I could be like that someday. He would drive from Omak, Washington to Quincy on Monday night to come watch me play football. Sorry about that. Yeah, my dad, he would drive, he'd follow us, and so would a bunch of other dads that would follow us. And yeah, Monday night we wouldn't get home till like 1, 2 in the morning. And, he'd always tell me he was going to give me money for, extra money for McDonald's and whatnot, but he always did. And, yeah, that was my dad. He did stuff like that with us. He took me out driving in the mountains. That's what I was talking about, was he he gave me a chance. He taught me that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're blood. He loved me. He'd come watch me at football practice. I wasn't the greatest football player, but he came and watched me either way and supported me. He came to our Friday night games, even though I wouldn't get to play. That was my dad. I have some good memories of my real dad. I have memories of riding around downtown Vancouver on the back of his bike. He had this little kid seat on the back of his bike, and we'd ride everywhere. All over Vancouver. I couldn't believe how good a shape my dad was in, I never really knew what he was up to, but I guess one of my favorite memories of my dad was that, just riding around on the back of his bike when I was a kid and hearing him tell me he loved me and he'll always love me. I feel bad because I'm the only one that can remember him like that. My sisters don't have that many memories of him. So, I don't know, sometimes it gets to me because I just want to be like, yo, this is our other dad. And, yeah. He loved me, and I knew that. Yeah, sorry, I went off track. My Auntie Char, my Auntie Barb, She was always teaching us stuff or trying to. I listened to her. I always felt safe with her. I always felt safe with my Auntie Barb for some reason. That was another woman in my childhood that I remember that I felt safe with. Yeah, my dad, Uncle Billy. It's all part of me, and I'm just trying to give you a better idea of what I know and what I don't know. I want to break these barriers. But I want you to know where I'm from. I've spent time with different Aboriginal teachers. Couple of my favorites when I went to treatment. Went to King Haven when I was 19. And this one old native guy, he was an old pen timer, Walter. I don't know if he's around or not, but I was just coming off of whatever and my addiction and all that other stuff, and I wasn't totally ready to quit, but he tried to teach me a bit about his culture, about what he knew. He was an Ojibwe man. He was like 56 years old. He spent a lot of his life in the pen, but he really tried to drill into my head that I shouldn't be angry because he was 56 years old or something, and he was angry and held on to all that pain because he went to residential schools out east. And I think he said something like that, but he went through a lot of pain. He spent a lot of time in jail. He killed dudes. This guy didn't fuck around, but he took me under his wing for the 2.5 months that I was at King Haven. He'd try and guide me, him and this other Cree man from Edmonton. I can't even remember his name, but yeah, they took me under their wing, and I understand now what they were getting at because they'd spent so much time in jail that I needed to let go of the hate and pain because I'll end up like them. And I mean, I almost have. I spent some time in American jail, Island County, when I was 18. I broke into a store twice, both when I was intoxicated. Second time, I punched the window out and cut my finger right there and had to get stitches, and I bled all over the store and caused a bunch of damage, and got released. And I'll never forget this when I got sentenced, because I got a month because I got like deferred program or something. I can't remember the name of it because it's been so long, but maybe it'd been out for not that long. I was supposed to go back in October, and when I got out, I went and partied with some friends. This was in Oak Harbor, Washington. I Yeah, I got drunk. I took my friend's car, went and tried to pick up my bro, Dylan, and yeah, I flipped the car. Ended up walking away from that accident. I didn't even have my seatbelt on. I just grabbed onto the handle. You can yeah, I got some scars right here, and I remember this off-duty state patrolman saved my life. I got out of the car door fell out. Um, he pulled over and asked me what was going on. I told him I couldn't really remember. I was intoxicated, and he put me in the back of his van. He brought me to the hospital. And he let me go. Well, he didn't even let me know. He didn't bring me to the hospital. He brought me to the pharmacy, and I got a ride from the pharmacy to the hospital where sheriffs were waiting for me. And while I was at the pharmacy, he just got me a tensor bandage and some bandages, and he cleaned up all my cuts and stuff, and he let me go, and he's like, you should go to the hospital, and he's like, the sheriffs are probably already waiting for you, so, just tell them whatever. I wouldn't be here today if my best friend's mom at the time didn't ship me off back to Canada. I'd probably be in the pen. So yeah, when I was 19, I moved back. I miss the States. Because, down there, it wasn't gross being Indian. In this country, either you love us or you hate us, because either you don't understand us or you have weird misconceptions of us. Like free schooling. I don't get where all these ideas from free schooling and we don't pay taxes. We pay taxes. We we pay for our schooling, or we take out loans, or some of us are lucky enough to get scholarships, but a lot of us don't even want to take those scholarships because of how people view us. I didn't want to get any scholarship because I was talking to one of my coworkers almost 6 months ago or whatever, and I was like, yeah, blah, 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 and she was like, oh, well, I wish I was Indian, because, I wish I could get all this free stuff. And I'm like, free stuff? And she was like, well, don't you get free schooling? And I was like, no. If I lived on my reservation, yeah. But I'd have to give back to my reservation. I couldn't really take that with me and leave. I pay taxes. The majority of us pay taxes. Unless we live on the res or we're working on the res, we all pay taxes. All of us. Unless we don't, unless we're living on the res or working on the res. But even then, some of us still pay taxes because we want the tax return, because we're not dumb. That's money for later. That's what my auntie taught me. So, we all pay taxes. as Canadian citizens, doesn't matter, we're working, we all pay taxes. So quit with this like idea that we don't pay taxes. That's it's frustrating. I don't get free schooling. I went on EI and paid for my GED that way. I'm currently upgrading to get into university. So, and I paid for that with my card. I didn't fucking. I can't rely on my band. When you leave the reservation, when natives leave the reservation, it's harder for us. It's a lot harder for us than you could imagine because we don't get that help that you guys think that we get. And a lot of us don't want to go on to welfare because we're too proud and we know that when we get sucked into that system, it's hard to get out. So we work. We work hard. But do you know how hard it is to get a job in Canada being an Indigenous person because we're stereotyped? Because we're all perceived as alcoholics and drug addicts and woman beaters. Not all of us, just a majority. But social media and people tend to focus on the very few when there's a lot of us out there that don't live on the reserve, that recovered from their addictions and are productive members of society that pay taxes and paid for their schooling, or they got scholarships. And you know what? Do you know how that makes me feel when people are like, oh, you guys get all this free stuff? I'm like, give me back my language. You can have that free schooling back. You can give me back my traditions, all of them. I'll gladly give you all of that stuff back. Do you honestly think that free schooling makes up for the loss of identity, the loss of culture? Do you think that the measly little bit of help that I get from the government can make up for what I have lost as a Shuswap person, as a Squamish person? I'm half Squamish. Because I'm half Squamish or a half breed, growing up, I got picked on because I was from a different nation. My brother would make fun of me, not accept me. I'm not saying he was whatever, just saying kids are mean. That's what they do. And because I didn't grow up on the res, I still never felt part of. A lot of us feel that way. A lot of us are lost. The ones that you see off the reserve, we are lost because we don't get free health care. We don't get the same kind of supports that we would get if we were living on the reservation. A lot of us are on our own out here. Like, we have each other, but we're on our own. We have culture, but we don't. Because we don't have people to share it with. so we lose it. Excuse me. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of thinking we're lost, and that's it. We are a lost people. And we don't like these stereotypes of, oh, we don't pay taxes, we go free schooling, and we had a lot of our free schooling taken away from our from our corrupt chiefs. I can't tell you a whole lot about all the corrupt chiefs, but if you want to get to know, like, a shitty one, check out Bad Medicine by John Riley. And it'll give you an idea of the kind of stuff that the Stoney Nakoda have to deal with, and how blind our people can be. I mean, some of us are coming around, but we've been oppressed, uneducated. The government allowed our chiefs to cancel adult education programs. So those of us that don't make it to a certain age and don't go to school at a certain age, we won't get it paid for, and we'll stay it. Like a lot of us stay illiterate. I mean, we have the internet and we can do all that stuff, but so the government let the chiefs cut those programs off and line their pockets. So if you think we don't know about all this stuff, it's just that we're trying to find stuff to do. That's why I want to go to school. I want to go to school I want to go to the U of A for the Indigenous Arts and Education program and get into social work and social sciences, and I want to create a program or a group of elders that watch over our chiefs, our corrupt chiefs, and those elders can't have anything to do with the other chiefs and other band and council members that they're looking at. So they gotta be from like totally different nations, totally different sides of the earth, but they gotta be native. We can't have white people watching over our shit because, I'm sorry, we gotta be on our own. We gotta be independent, and I want to do this. People are like, oh, that's what Harper had planned. Well, you know what? I'm down with that. I'm down with keeping an eye on our people and becoming a leader and fixing all of that crap. I want to create education programs for our people because a lot of us are illiterate. A lot of us drop out by 9th, 10th grade because of the trauma that we haven't dealt with, and we end up having to grow up too fast because our parents are addicts, or we get abandoned, or we get stuck in foster care, because a lot of Indigenous people get stuck in foster care. And that's got to stop. The Canadian government has to stop taking our children. They need to create programs to educate social workers to not be so evil and take our children right off the hop, because I've witnessed this over and over and over again. I see Indigenous women, Indigenous men going to treatment over and over again. and these treatment centers that don't deal with trauma, that these social workers are forcing these Indigenous people to go to, that don't deal with their trauma, that don't deal with their issues. They're just saying, hey, go fucking deal with your addiction and maybe you get your kids back. But the kind of pain that you're putting our people through by taking our kids away, it's got to change. That's what's killing our culture. That's what's killing our identity, our sense of belonging. You're separating us from family. It happens all the time. And it's got to change. The residential schools are gone, but you're still taking our babies. You're still killing our women. You're still hurting our people. It's got to stop. So, hopefully, you know now that we pay taxes. We don't get all this free money. And those that do get free money, they don't get that much. Oh, you hear about these, like, natives that have oil and gas companies building or drilling on their lands, but what you don't know is how when they signed these treaties, these contracts, any of this stuff, that they didn't include the inflation. So those Indians, those $5 Indians, right now, if you're a $5 Indian, you should be getting $122 a year at the inflation rate of 5. Like, because when those treaties were signed, $5 a year was like, whatever. But we're still getting $5 a year. And that hasn't changed since the 1800s. You see these natives getting free money from the government or from the oil and gas companies, and I'm pretty sure that those oil and gas companies, when they signed their treaties, their contracts or whatever, they didn't include any inflation rates. They just said, here, this is the lump sum that you're going to get. We're not going to include any inflation rates over the years. Maybe they did, I don't know. But there's a lot of stuff that you people don't know. That you need to know. There's so many things that I want to touch on. I want to talk about racism and how I've dealt with it. It's hard being an Indian in Canada. I've gone through a lot of pain, and I still try and be a better person. But people still see me as an Indian. I go to my local Safeway, and I get followed by my own kind. That says a lot about being Indian. When kind, but your own race is following you. I get followed in a majority of the stores that I go in. One of my favorites, though, absolute favorites, is when people play the race guessing game, because I don't always, like, I get told that I don't look like an Indian. I don't sound like an Indian. I don't know what the fuck an Indian is supposed to sound like. I get called Filipino. I get called Mexican. I even got called black. I was like, really? The race guessing game. And then when I go to work for certain companies, sometimes, these older guys, like, I know they mean well, but to hear someone say, "Oh man, you're the hardest working Indian I've ever had," I hear that a lot, and man, sometimes I just want to like punch these old dudes in the face. But I get it, you know. I get the stereotypes. I get the bullshit. I get the. I get that you judge my people by our actions, and you see us on the streets drinking and huffing and doing drugs, and you know, a lot of you don't look at the bigger picture, that a lot of these people are dealing with trauma. If it's not trauma from the residential schools exactly, it's trauma from, the neglect, the mental and emotional abuse that we received as kids because our parents went through or their grandparents went through. So they weren't emotionally stable enough to have kids, so they brought kids into the world and they weren't ready. So we're a byproduct of this residential school system. The angry, the hurt, the wounded. It's hard for me to not get mad at people when you people have been stepping over us for years. Years. Just walking over because I get it, you didn't know. Compared to the US here in Canada, a larger majority of the jailhouse population is Indigenous. Why have you guys been locking up my people? Why did you lock me up? Why couldn't you find me some sort of program to help me get out of what I was in? Out of my addiction? Why, why can't we start programs that deal with that in jail? Why are we just locking people away and forgetting about them and just putting them in with other criminals so they can become better criminals? That's what you're doing. There's this thing called the Glad You Act. It's a get out of jail free kind of deal. So if you're victims of the residential school, when you go to jail and you continue to go to jail, you get out of trouble, I can't believe that we need to have an act like this. I can't believe this needs to exist. And you people, like, and I'm sorry, not you people, but people in general, the ones that weren't paying attention, the ones that were like, okay, why do we need to have this Gladue Act? What is the whole purpose of this? I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic. Anyway, back to being Indigenous. Barriers I'm trying to break. Another big. I think I've covered a majority of them. I'm open to feedback. Yeah. I still don't have all the questions in to tell you what you want to know, but I've given you an idea of me and what I want to do. I don't just want to hear my story, I want to hear a solution, you know? I want to tell you a solution, my idea of a solution of what will make this reconciliation work. And I want to hear from the people, all the people. So we can get better, so we can heal. So, other misconceptions, other stuff that happens on the reserves. I'm just trying to think. There was a woman who asked me about getting her kids to smudge. She's white and she has Cree children, and she's looking for ways to culture her kids because she thinks it's important, and I think that's awesome, and I think that's the kind of stuff that we need to be doing, and it's the kind of stuff that goes on at the Friendship Center, and there are other places that you can look for stuff like that, but like for moms that have native kids that want to do that kind of stuff and the dad's not around or the dad's working too much to kind of do stuff like that, check out the Friendship Center. I made a complaint about, people gaining profit off of selling sage. Sage is a medicine. It's supposed to be free. You just go pick it and you make an offering. This is what my grandma taught me, and this is what actually one of my therapists taught me. She was an Indigenous woman. She taught me some shit that I needed. She taught me stuff that I needed to know about myself and my culture, and stuff that I needed to remember. Like, there's sage. You can find it all over the city. It grows everywhere. You just have to look hard enough. If you're gonna go look for it, make an offering, bring tobacco, bring a plate of food on a paper plate, bring a paper plate of food that your ancestors, your dead family members that you care about, bring food that they would love and honor them, and go pick sage. Don't pay for it. It's a medicine. Can't gain money off of my culture. It's not for you to do stuff like that. I'm giving this to you so you can go and get it. And if you can't, then find someone who can and offer them tobacco. Offer them something to go pick it for you. Find an elder. I had another friend talk about how she wanted to continue smudging, but she was white. If you want to smudge, just smudge. Just don't do it on moon time. If you have to do it on your moon time, sweetgrass. And if you know what moon time is, period. Yeah, if you're gonna smudge when you're on your period, you're supposed to use sweetgrass. I can't tell you the full detail of what that's about, but I'll find out and I'll let you know if people remind me. But, like I said, in my culture, women are stronger, so they have to pray differently. They have to pray separately because they're stronger, not because they're allowed to. Women, yeah, that's another misconception. If you did buy sage, don't throw it away. Take it, take a red cloth, wrap it up with some tobacco, and put it in there for 4 days. And then use it after 4 days and just make a tobacco offering and a food offering. But don't buy it anymore. Just because I told you to do that doesn't give you the right of way to go buy sage. Do it the proper way. Go pick it and make an offering to the land. If not, find someone that will. A lot of us indigenous, especially in the cities, we don't know how to do all that stuff. I mean, I was raised to do that stuff, but I know some that are just, they tell me, yo, bro, I'm gonna go do my hunting at Safeway and get a rotisserie chicken. And, yeah. So, we all don't know what it's like to live on the res, and we all don't know all the spiritual stuff. A lot of us are just urbanized. Because we don't know any other way. So again, if you think that me getting my bare minimum of my healthcare covered, that will make up for everything that I've lost, cool, more power to you. I just don't want to talk to you because you don't care. You don't care that I don't have culture or identity. You don't care that I struggle with this. You don't care that I'm on my own, off my reserve. I'm literally on my own. And a lot of us go through this. And a lot of us have these identity crises. And a lot of us end up in treatment centers. And these treatment centers need to change. They need to deal with addiction and mental health at the same time. Instead of just putting us in these revolving doors of treatment centers and having our band pay for it. Not me. I didn't have my band pay for my treatment center. My treatment visit, I had Alberta Works. I wanted welfare. It's the only way that I could get help because my band wouldn't help me. Or if they did cover anything, I'd have to move back to BC, go to a native treatment center in BC or whatever, and they'd only cover 42 days. I need more than 42 days to deal with all the stuff I hold up here. So, y'all gotta stop killing us. Courts send us to treatment centers that only focus on addiction and not really how to deal with the trauma that we deal with. Our trauma is swept under the rug. And you wonder why we're living on the streets and living in homeless shelters and in jails here. It's because our system is fucked. It's built so that we don't deal with the real underlying issue and we just go in this revolving door. And treatment center tours and ADAC tours and wellness tours and smart recovery tours and all these fucking recovery things that drive us crazy towards the end, and you know. If you can think of any more questions to ask, please message me and I'll do what I can to answer them. I'll probably post another video in 3 days, and I can continue breaking barriers, I guess. And yeah, so thanks again. Cheers.